Welcome everyone. I'm Andrea from St. Mark's Hospital and I welcome you to this presentation today. We have with us today Laura Jones from St. Mark's Hospital, and she's going to be talking to us about road biking. I will let Laura give a little bit more of an introduction to herself, but first I just wanted to say if you need to fill out the form for your points, then Brittany's going to put that into the chat. So look for that link in the chat so you can go ahead and fill it out and get the points. And then also, if you have questions during the presentation, please add them in the chat. And then I'll keep an eye on the chat, and if the questions are relevant to what we're talking about right now, I'll have Laura answer them in that moment, but other questions we'll save for question and answer time at the end. All right, so Laura, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me and letting me teach you a little bit about road biking. Really, biking is my favorite exercise. I started that actually in about 2009, where someone asked me to do the biking portion in a triathlon that we already kind of had it was kind of a team event triathlon. And so this presentation really is based off of that experience and the latest research in exercise science. As you can see, I am a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for about 30 years and have been teaching for about 12, not full-time, but have been teaching full-time for about 5 years. So I love to teach and share what I know about health and wellness. Okay, so here's my disclaimer that this is for educational purposes only and doesn't replace being seen by a physician or having a professional sports assessment, and I have no conflict of interest. So our learning objectives, we're going to kind of talk about the health benefits specific to biking. We'll review biking equipment, how you can prepare for riding a bike, and go over safety measures and road rules. So why biking? Really, biking is a fantastic cardiovascular workout. And this is all of this benefits is very specific to biking. It's not necessarily exercising as a whole. This is specific for biking. There was actually a study done that went over 14 years and included 30,000 people. And that's where a lot of this research comes from, in addition to other studies. But it really is a great cardiovascular workout. It elevates your heart health. And when your heart rate is elevated, your heart muscle strengthens. Regular cycling is really good for your lungs and circulation as well, and protects you from developing cardiovascular diseases, specifically stroke, heart attack, and high blood pressure. Cycling also burns about 400 calories an hour, and which really kind of helps you manage your weight and decrease your fat percentage. It strengthens your core and lower body. And one of the best things about cycling is that it's very low impact. So a lot of physicians will ask you to bike to recover from some sort of a joint surgery. It's very gentle on your back, your hips, your knees, and your ankles. So anyone that has like arthritis or joint issues, it's the perfect exercise for you. Some other health benefits. Cycling improves your lung function. It reduces your cancer risk, specifically colon and breast cancer, significantly. And it helps prevent certain chronic illnesses, specifically diabetes. It reduces your risk of diabetes by 40%. It improves your muscle strength and flexibility. It improves posture, balance, coordination, and joint mobility. Some of the best health benefits is really your mental health benefits. The studies have shown that it really improves your overall well-being. It awakens your senses. It helps improve your mood. It decreases your risk and improves your management of mental health conditions such as depression, stress, and anxiety. And really that's due to the effects of the exercise itself and because of the enjoyment that riding a bike can really bring. And then the final thing is that there is a significantly lowered risk of dementia. Cycling isn't just for those that are young, and really the largest growth in cycling exercise is those that are 45 and beyond. Like I mentioned, the study, involved those that were in their up to 92. So as we age, we normally have a natural decrease in physical function and cognitive capabilities, and cycling can really counteract that tendency. Middle age and older adults who cycle can expect to have better joint function, can manage their chronic conditions better. They have an improved quality of life and improved metabolism. Their balance, their strength, and coordination improves, which ultimately decreases their risk for falling and for fractures. And then finally, there's a reduction of what's called all-cause mortality, which basically means you'll live longer. Another reason that you would want to bike is that it is fun and enjoyable. And that's really what captured me. I told you about why I started biking, and it really became my favorite exercise because of the way that I felt when I was biking. It really puts you out into nature. The wind is always blowing on your face. You don't even realize that you're working hard because it's so enjoyable. And really, there's about 1 billion people worldwide that ride bicycles every day. So it is very popular. It's fun and it's easy. Most people know how to ride a bike, and once you learn, you don't forget. And really, it's an activity that many people enjoy. You're taking in the scenery, you're coasting down hills, you're being in that outdoor space. It really doesn't seem like work or exercise. And really, when you enjoy something, you're more likely to continue to do it. So this is an exercise that's easy to maintain. You can also do it alone or with others. I prefer solo. I like my mind to wander. It's when I contemplate my life and what's going on in it. But those that are more social can join a cycling group, and really it's also family friendly. Cycling can be geared to you, and it really can be what you want it to be. You can ride for leisure along little back roads or bike paths, stop and enjoy the scenery. You can do it for cardiovascular health and challenge your heart by doing a mix of like hills and valleys. Really, that research shows that interval work is not only good for your heart, but it engages more muscles and burns more calories. You could also maybe do a high energy session or ride long distances. And then finally, you can consider a tandem bike. One of the stories that I mentioned that I started biking in 2009, and I biked for about a year, and then my husband decided he was going to start joining me and bike with me. And by about a month into him biking, he was bypassing me in strength and speed. And it's just because we're built the way that we're built. And his muscles allowed him to be faster than me because I'm female and he's male, which made me it was a little slap in the face for me. So we ended up getting a tandem bike. And really, that was the best equalizer because then we could exert at our own level and stay together. And a lot of long distance races offer tandem categories. So it's kind of a fun family or couple thing to enjoy. I did want to talk about e-bikes just because these electric assisted bikes are more and more prevalent. They are actually legally classified as a bike, even though they have a little bit of a motor. And what this is it provides like electrical assistance when the rider is pedaling. And there's sensors also that detect pedaling speed and force, so it'll give you that information. The advantages is that you can really have a higher speed with less effort. It will reduce your travel time, and it's easier to like climb hills. So it's really a great option for those that have like physical barriers, like compromised health, those that are over 65, if you're obese or have coronary artery disease. Research on electrical bikes or e-bikes have shown that it does still impact cardiorespiratory fitness. It's considered a moderate intensity physical activity. But because it's assisted, as you would expect, the total energy expenditure is lower than using a conventional bike, but the research shows it's between about 90 and 94% compared to 100% of a regular road bike. So it is less, but it's not as much as you would expect. Because it's assisted, you do get from point A to point B quicker. So if you just have kind of an awareness that it's going to get you from point A to point B quicker, that maybe you extend your ride. So instead of doing 10 miles, maybe you do 13 or 14 miles to get the same benefit than a regular bike. And also, e-bike users also feel safer due to the stability, the powerful brakes, and the ability to keep up with traffic if you're choosing to bike on the regular motor vehicle roads. There still is a little bit of mixed research regarding, you know, the impact on crashes, does e-bikes. And so that's kind of research is in process, so that we don't know, if they're safer or not. All right. One of the negative things about biking is that it can be costly to get started. It's not like walking or running where you just need a pair of shoes. So there are some things that you can do to help with cost. Really, my example is I had a friend that had just bought a new bike, and so she had her old bike, and so she let me borrow it, and so it was relatively inexpensive for me to get involved with biking just because she let me borrow her bike. Now, with that being said, she was my same weight and my same height, so it worked. But you definitely can buy used. You can start out slow and kind of spread out the equipment that is required. And we'll talk about the equipment here as we move along. One of the absolutes that you need when biking is a helmet, really, and that's 100% for your safety. I actually have known people that have gotten hit by cars. It's one of the reasons why I choose to use bike lanes and bike paths versus doing it in traffic. But I still ride on regular roads as well. And you can also have accidents that don't involve cars as well. But your helmet should be parallel to the ground, and it really should be level, and it should fall about 2 finger widths above your eyebrows. So that's kind of the level of how you know whether it's fitting correctly. Just like this picture, there's side straps, and those side straps should actually come to a point just below your ear. So that this picture is a perfect example of how the straps are fit. The chin strap should be about 1/2 inch below your mouth when your mouth is closed. So when you open your mouth, when you take a drink or something like that, it's not going to be too tight. You really need to take helmets seriously. If you have loose straps, then it's like not wearing a helmet at all. It shouldn't move very much when you shake your head. And it's absolutely important that if you do have an impact or a crash, that you replace your helmet.
Laura, we have a question on the helmet. The
Okay.
picture that you're showing, the picture next to the helmet shows it being attached next to the neck, but then you said it should be 1/2 inch below the mouth. So can you
So
please clarify that for us?
So you can kind of see the straps are underneath the ears. Then there's an additional strap that goes underneath the chin, and you can't really see it because her hands are in the way. But normally, you know, you've got your straps that go around your ears, and then there's a single strap that comes underneath your chin. And when it comes underneath your chin, it should be about 1/2 of an inch below your chin when it's closed, so that when you open your mouth, it's not putting pressure, and you're not inhibited from opening your mouth and taking a drink, or, you know,
Okay.
throwing a snack in. So hopefully
So
that makes sense.
it
It's
does
not
go.
1/2 of an inch below the ear. It's half of an inch below the chin.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Thank you. When you said 1/2 an inch below the mouth, I think that they understood that to mean like on the front of the chin.
Yeah,
That
below
it
the chin.
should
Yeah.
be below the chin near the neck.
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. You don't necessarily have to have special cycling gear to begin cycling, but you do. The most important thing is that it's tight and close fitting, um, because you don't want fabrics rubbing against your skin and causing irritation. So I don't recommend wearing anything that's like 100% cotton. That has a tendency to be more abrasive, and especially the item that you choose to wear from your waist down needs to be tight fitting, because especially with the chain issue, you don't want to have a pant cuff that gets, you know, into the chain guard. So just kind of be aware of that. I actually recommend just, you know, a moisture wicking top, and then, you know, you can wear shorts on the bottom if you would like. But they do make biking shorts that have what's called a chamois in them. It's kind of like padding that kind of will reduce chafing and relieve that pressure on the sit bones. Some other equipment that you'll need, of course, you'll need water. And that's really if you are going longer than 60 minutes in kind of moderate weather, or longer than 30 minutes in warmer weather. You typically lose about 1 to 2 quarts an hour. And so most bikes will come with the water bottle holders already attached. So it's really easy just to fill it up with water before you go. I do recommend glasses to protect your eyes. I have a tendency to bike along the legacy bike route. And if I bike at night and it's in the middle of the summer, there's mosquitoes. And when I first started biking, there was a couple times that I would get a mosquito in my eyeball and it stops you very quickly. So definitely wear glasses. Now they make biking glasses that you can change the lenses. But if you can't, and you know, put through that expense, just regular sunglasses are fine until you know, maybe you decide you want to purchase cycling glasses. Also, I think cycling gloves are kind of one of those necessities. You don't have to have them, but the whole purpose of cycling gloves is they actually put like some padding here on your palm, and it kind of distributes the weight across your palm so that your hands don't go numb. And there's more different things that you can do to help with that as well. So like the picture on the right lower is a picture of cycling gloves. They come in full finger and shorter finger options. They're not a necessity, but it definitely makes your ride a little bit more comfortable if you have them. You do need to carry some basic repair equipment with you, specifically a little miniature pump to pump up a tire, a spare tire, and something called tire levers that help you get the tire off. Now, if you've never changed a tire, I definitely recommend you going to YouTube and looking up how to change a road bike tire, or learn how to maintain a safe bike. There's tons of videos out there that will really help you know how to take care of a bike and how to change a tire. For myself, my friend actually showed me, kind of gave me a little tutorial for an hour, and we took on off one tire and put on another tire. And so there is a little bit of a learning curve with it, but you definitely need it because you don't want to get a flat and then be stranded far away from home. You can consider a saddle bag. The saddle bag is what is in the top right, and you can put all of your equipment in there, like your repair equipment, your cell phone, your keys. When I first started, I didn't have a saddle bag, so I just used a real simple backpack to put all of my equipment in. But that could be definitely a purchase down the road. It just is more convenient and not as cumbersome. You can consider cycling shoes. Again, when you're starting, you can just use regular platform, a regular platform pedal. But the benefit of a cycling shoe, and that's actually the picture on the left, is if you kind of see the little yellow tab that's there in the middle, that actually attaches to the pedal. And so not only can you get the push as you're pushing down with your foot, you get the push is what gives you kind of your propulsion, but you can also get propulsion from pulling up as you circle around. So it just is more efficient if you have cycling shoes, but I wouldn't, they can be about $100 a piece. So I definitely would not buy them until you know that that's really what you're going to be doing for exercise. And then finally, any rides longer than about 60 minutes, you need to add electrolytes and carbohydrates in addition to your water, just because you're burning a lot of calories. And the rule is 30 grams every 30 minutes. A typical 8-ounce sports drink has about 15 grams, so that kind of gives you a guideline. If you don't like sports drinks, they also have like energy bars and carb gel packets that, you know, other people use as well. Some of the conditions that you may encounter when biking is cold. And some things to do to mitigate the cold is you, of course, dress in layers. You can use gloves that, you know, cover your fingers, and then ear warmers. I actually would just use kind of the band that you use at winter that goes over your ears to keep them warm. My threshold of I don't like biking is about 40 degrees. Anything 40 degrees and below, I will not bike in. It makes me miserable. But I hate cold. So that's one thing. I see people out biking in 20 and 30 degree weather. So it's definitely something that you can do. You just have to figure out whether you want to do that or not. Another condition that you may encounter is rain. Of course, wear waterproof clothes. It gets a little bit darker when it's overcast and stormy. So definitely should wear bright colors and reflective gear. And then if you have a tendency to want to bike in the evening or early morning, again, reflective gear, you can actually, you know, put like reflective tape on like a top. That's what my husband did, is he put reflective tape on his actual shirt. It's also, you're supposed to, if it's after dark, you're supposed to, because you're considered a motor vehicle if you're riding on regular roads, that you have a white light on the front of your bike and a red blinking light on your back so that vehicles can see you. All right, new or old, it's important that the bike fits your body. Frame. It's best to get a bike that's really specific to your gender. And so women are born with wider hips and pelvises. Their sit bones are a little bit further back. Their shoulders are narrower. Their hands are smaller. Men will have wider shoulders and longer arms. And so that's why you would choose a gender specific frame, because you want to be comfortable when you're riding a bike. And so if you're a female and you choose a male version, then you're going to have to reach further. And maybe the seat is going to make you more uncomfortable because it's meant for a male versus a female. So just kind of keep that in mind. I definitely recommend doing the gender specific. It'll just make you more comfortable. The formula for bike size frame you'll see here on the picture, you'll see a frame size, and it's always done in centimeters. So, you'll be a 52 centimeter. That's the bike size frame that you're looking for. Now this table is in regards to road biking. If you choose like a hybrid bike, or if you're a mountain biker, it's done completely different. So just kind of keep that in mind. But to get that frame size, you would measure from your groin down to the floor when you're standing erect, in centimeters, and then times that by 0.67, and that is your frame size. Okay. Now bike frames will come in even numbers. So if you have an odd number, say you're 53 centimeters, if you're male, a lot of times you should go up a size, and maybe female will go down a size if you have if you've got shorter arms, or if you're a female. I do recommend getting a bike fitting. You can actually go into a bike shop and, start looking at some newer bikes, and they'll do a bike fitting for free. And then you can kind of know what your frame size is. You're not absolutely, required to purchase a bike for them to give you your frame size. So that is an option. But you will be most comfortable if you actually get a bike fitting, because they do a thorough measurement, not only of your height and your inseam, but also your torso and your arms. And so they'll conform a bike to fit you exactly. Your seat is really important. This saddle soreness is really the biggest barrier why people don't want to bike. And it's really just getting your groin, your perineal area, used to the fact that you're riding on this smaller seat. And it's really that pressure of the blood vessels and nerves on that genitalia. And it can result in numbness. And it just kind of decreases your experience. Because of this, really your seat parameters are important. So in this picture, it kind of shows you what you shouldn't do in the first two pictures, and then what you should do. So your knee should be slightly bent when the pedal is pushed down all the way, and that's the correct height on your seat. Beginners may want their seat a bit lower for comfort and security, but you don't want to be reaching and pushing the pedal down, because if you can kind of imagine that that's going to increase the pressure on your perineum. And the other problem, if you have it too low, then a lot of times you'll kind of do more rocking back and forth, which can increase your saddle soreness. So it's really important that you get your seat the correct height. There is something that is made called chamois butter that you can do for saddle soreness. And also, if you kind of shift position, I'd kind of shift position a little bit further back, or shift position a little bit further forward, or stand up for a little bit, taking breaks, that will definitely help with saddle soreness. All right, handlebars. Really, the height of your handlebars is personal preference. Typically, people will have them higher for more comfort, just because it puts less pressure on the perineum, and lower if you want to be more aerodynamic, and so that's more for performance. Typical standard is, if you have a road bike, that your stem should be about 1 inch higher than your seat. And if you have a hybrid bike, it actually should be 1 to 2 inches below the saddle. Your hands should be like at 11 and 1. It shouldn't be like outstretched, 11 and 1, so that it just makes you more aerodynamic, and it's less stress on your shoulders. Your riding position, just think that you're supposed to be relaxed, and all of your joints should be slightly bent. You don't want to have this rigor mortis. So your elbows should be bent and relaxed. It really helps you when you're relaxed and have those elbows bent to prevent veering if you hit like a bump on the pathway. It also really helps absorb shock as well. You want to keep your upper body still, but your shoulders relaxed. You don't want to drop your head because you need to be able to visualize. But if your neck starts to feel stiff, you can kind of stretch it one way or the other, because that's your neck's having to do a lot of job by keeping your head upright. I do recommend changing your hand position. Getting those gloves does help, but I actually had 3 different positions on my handlebars that I would move my hands to prevent that numbness and upper body stiffness. Just remember, no like white knuckle, like hanging on to them really, really tight. All right, let's talk about what you would do before and then after. Couple things with checking a bike. There's this mnemonic called ABC Quick Check. And A means that you're checking the air in your tires. On a road bike, your tire, if you try to push the tire in, it should not give at all. There is some guidelines on the side of the tire on what what pressure it should be, what pressure should be in the tire. So just kind of keep that in mind. Your brakes, you can look at your pads for wear. If there's less than a 1/4 inch of the pad, then those need to be replaced. The cranks and chain, you want to kind of pull on the crank. You can see in the picture what a crank is. That's kind of the piece of metal that holds the pedal. You kind of pull on it. You don't want it to move at all. If it moves, then you need to tighten that nut that holds it in place. And then you just want to kind of rotate that crank so that you can see the movement of the chain and that it's flowing. You don't want any gunk on the chain. You really should oil your chain about every other ride. Quick is for quick releases. There's releases that release the bikes or the wheels of the bike that hold the wheels in place. So those should be closed. You don't want to you don't want to leave those open, and they should actually be pointing towards the back of the bike so that they don't get caught on anything when you're riding. And then the final is check it over to make sure that it's working properly. So that's a quick mnemonic that kind of helps you know what you need to do to your bike before you start. And I always encourage static stretching both before and after riding. Riding is very work heavy on your muscles, and you will, prevent injury. You're going to have a faster recovery. You'll be less sore. And the research actually shows that you'll have better speed and, greater comfort and control in addition to that if you do stretching before and after. So here's just some thoughts. You really just need to do a full static stretching. And static stretching is where you stretch and hold it. You don't want to do the bouncing. So, on your groin, you just sit on the ground, you sit in Indian style and push on your knees to kind of stretch out your groin. Your shoulders, you'd interlace your fingers and lift up and back and then hold it for 30 to 60 seconds. Calves and quads, back and hips, hamstrings. So just kind of your whole body really will help you be more comfortable and avoid injury. All right, let's talk about, now that we've talked about everything you need to do to prepare, let's hit the road. All right, to challenge your body, the best thing you can do is to have a steady rhythm. You want to avoid pedal, coast, pedal, coast. You really want to pedal continuously, okay? Pedal, 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 pedal. Especially if you're a beginner, I would recommend seeking out those long stretches of like bike and walking and running trails and choose those versus being on the open road. You can also choose, like if you're going to be on the road, you can choose a time that maybe there's not a lot of traffic. But really those bike and walking trails are really fantastic options. You do need to master the balance between gear and cadence. And so to be able to constantly pedal, depending on where, the road or the pathway, you need to be in the right gear to be able to continuously pedal. And so pedaling is called a cadence. And the cadence shouldn't be so fast that you bounce in the saddle or on the seat. And the gear shouldn't be so hard that it's difficult, because you can potentially hurt your joints that way. One way to know if you have balance is to check your pace. And the best pace is about 80 to 90 times a minute, and that's counting one leg. So they actually have, these little things that you can put on your bike that will check your cadence, or you can just set a timer for 1 minute and then count one leg and count it out. If you're maybe 60 per minute, the gear's too hard. If you're 110, it's too easy. Okay, so you really want to aim for that about 80 to 90 times per minute. Beginners, I encourage you to aim for an easy 30-minute ride, and then increase from there. You can expect to be a little sore in your lower body and your neck and your shoulders, but it takes time, and then that's going to go away. Also, not only increase slowly, but I actually recommend, and the research kind of supports, that riding 3 times a week is enough exercise. They show that exercising or doing 2 shorter weekday rides and a longer weekend ride is actually will give you the same benefit than 3 of the same. So for it to fill my time, that's what I would do. I'd do a shorter weekday ride. So like maybe I'd do a 10-mile ride on Tuesday and Thursday, and then I do a 20-mile ride on Saturday. And I know that probably if you've never biked, 10 miles sound like a long time, but it really is about 30 to about 40 minutes. All right, shifting gears. Really, this is something that you kind of is a little bit of a learning curve. But when it's getting harder to pedal, you need to shift into an easier or lower gear. When it's getting easier to pedal, you want to be in a harder or higher gear. You just need to be sure to kind of think ahead. So if you see a hill coming, you want to shift into an easier gear before you get to the hill. And if you see, a downhill section, you want to get into a harder gear. The whole purpose, again, is pedaling continuously, okay? You also don't want to stop unless you're in an easier gear to start. You don't want to be in a gear that's really difficult to start. And then this picture, it kind of shows you how the chain should be in a straight line. So the top 2 examples are showing how are good things, it's in green. Yeah, it's in a straight line. And the bottom examples are in red, and it shows you how it's more at a diagonal. Now you'll know if you get into one of these lower areas, because you're going to hear kind of like this sound that's like, it's like a rubbing sound. Okay. If you hear a rubbing sound of your chain, or you hear your chain, then you know you're probably in one of the lower examples, and you just need to change, your gear. You can see that in the picture, the example on the right hand side is 3 lines, and those are symbolic of the 3 gears in the front. And then the one on the left is the gears in the back, and there's multiple. Now, some bikes are built with 3, some are built with 2 in the front, and then varies on the back depending on the bike. But just try to remember to keep it in a straight line. And if you hear that noise, it's time to do something. All right, it's important to have some courtesy when you're biking, and be kind to others. Announce when you're passing. And like I mentioned, I do a lot of bike and running and walking pathways. And so if I'm coming up on a couple of people that are walking, I'm going to announce well in advance so that I don't startle them. And I usually will say on your left, which means I'm going to pass them on their left. And so make sure that you're just yelling ahead of time so you don't startle them. Pass on your left, and then don't move over too soon. Give them at least a couple bikes length before you move back to the right. The general rule is that you should stay as close to the right as possible unless you're passing. Another thing, specifically if you are on roadways, like motor roadways, you need to use the hand signals to tell cars where you're going. Just like a car has to turn on their, turn signal, or they have their brake light so that you know when they're slowing down or stopping. You need to, as a bike, need to do the same thing. So I'm taking left arm out. I'm taking a right arm out. You can see that there's actually two right arm alternatives. I always just felt like even the motor vehicles are going to know when I'm going right. So I always use the alternate. And then stopping is elbow down with your hand outstretched. So just kind of let people know what you're doing so they don't have to guess. Don't block the trail. Don't use more than half of it for a group ride. And if you stop, get off of the trail. Make sure you don't litter. And as bikes, you are actually not allowed to ride on sidewalks. You need to be on the road. The sidewalks are meant for pedestrians only, and you are not considered a pedestrian. All right, we're going to talk about what you can do as a cyclist that will make your ride safer. So there are dangers in regards to cycling. Poor weather conditions, it can get uncomfortable and possibly dangerous. And so you can mitigate this by wearing proper clothing, but you're really going to still face riding conditions you can't control. Road accidents is a con to biking. You can fall is the most common incident. I've fallen several times for lots of different reasons. But this really increases if you become distracted. Say you try to turn and you don't properly negotiate it and you skid. And you can come up on road hazards, which are typically like potholes or loose gravel. But really awareness and staying alert is half the battle. The last thing is motor vehicle accident. And obviously, bicyclists are more likely to be injured than the motor vehicle driver. And really, this is the number one reason people choose not to bike. And it is a real concern. The statistics indicate that 25% of accidents that occur on the road are cyclist related. Most happen on roads without a bike lane. Hence why you're starting to see more and more roads that are designed and have a bike lane. If the statistics say that if there is a painted bike lane, that it reduces cycling injuries by 50%. And if there's a separated bike lane, that it reduces the injury risk by 89%. So it's huge. So really, I choose not to bike in low light. I prefer biking and walking trails to the roads, but you would have to decide what works for you. But it is riskier to be on roads with motor vehicles. So protect yourself. Choose your route carefully. You can be predictable. Try to ride in a straight line. Don't swerve. Definitely makes motor vehicles nervous when you're swerving. Wear bright clothing. You can wear maybe black bottoms, but wear, a bright red or yellow or orange or some sort of bright clothing so that the vehicles can see you more readily. Use your lights during inclement weather, which I already talked about. I always maintain eye contact. So like there's one particular place that I go that's a roundabout. And as I'm doing that roundabout, I look every single motor vehicle in the eye so that they can see me. And I know that they see me. That way you're kind of anticipating. Watch out for turning vehicles right outside the door zone. So if you're riding along a road and there's cars that are parked, you need to be 3 feet away from those cars, or you risk what's called dooring, when they open up the door and then you're behind the door. So 3 feet away from parked cars. And then look out for hazards on the road. Watch for cars that could cut you off or turn in front of you. And then brake smart. You should brake with the back brake first and then add the front. Don't do the opposite. So that, you know, a lot of times if you hit the front all by itself really, really hard and you're trying to stop, then you risk going over the handlebars. It doesn't happen a ton, but it does increase that risk. And so always do the back brake first, then add the front to stop. All right, so here's some rules of the road. We're getting close to the end. Cyclists have the same rights and responsibilities as motor vehicle drivers. So you need to obey traffic signals and stop signs. You ride with traffic in the rightmost lane, headed in the direction you're going. Cars are supposed to give you 3 feet. There's never supposed to be less than 3 feet from cars. So if the road is too narrow, you're actually supposed to ride in the middle of the lane, so you don't give cars the opportunity to try and squeeze past you. Changing lanes. This little diagram that kind of shows you how to change lanes, but it's important for you to scan if you change lane. So you let go of your left handlebar. You're only holding on with your right. You turn your chin to your shoulder and scan, and if it's clear, signal and move over. You do want to move over 1 lane at a time, scanning and signaling each time. Intersections are a riskier area. So on the picture, you'll see how this shows someone taking a left, or if that makes you nervous and you don't want to do that, then follow the route that a pedestrian would follow, and cross one side, stop at the corner, cross the other side. All right, just finally, we're going to go over some last minute tips that may improve your cycling experience. Make sure that you set some goals, decide what you want to accomplish, how many days, how long, actually put it in your calendar, and make it a commitment. Ride whenever. It doesn't need to be a set time. You can do it in the morning and evening, on your lunch break. One of the benefits with biking is it doesn't make you sweaty, so it's easy to ride on a lunch break. You could do it as part of your weekend, as a part of a family trip. Be organized. It does take time to prepare. It takes me about 20 minutes to get ready to go biking. You have to get dressed, you gather all your equipment, check your bike, stretch. So just kind of keep that in mind. Ride inside. In inclement weather or deep cold, you can consider buying what's called an indoor trainer, where the bike gets mounted on the trainer and then you ride like normal. When I was training for triathlons, this is what I did to get through the winter months. And then tow your toddler, your dog, or your family. Take the family with you. There's really many options with tandem bikes and bike trailers that can help overcome barriers. Another thing that you can do to help you be more successful is motivate yourself. This picture is me on riding with one of my friends on a little a century ride, which is 100 miles, called the Little Red up in Logan. Highly recommend signing up for a race with a distance that makes you just a little nervous, because you can do it. Typically the rule is you can handle 3 times the duration of your average ride. So if you normally are doing 25 miles, you can handle a 75-mile bike ride. If you choose to do like a 50-mile, then you would expect to train by doing 2 12-mile sessions and a 26-mile on a weekend. If you're training for like a century, then you would do 2 25 miles on the weekdays and a 50-mile bike ride on the weekend. So that just kind of gives you an idea. You can also join an organization, join a bike shop organization or a bike club. Really it helps you meet people, explore new routes as a group, and they typically will have ones tailored for new bikers and have what's called no drop rides, which means no one gets left behind. And the last thing I definitely recommend is training using your heart rate. So I would want to train because I did triathlons, I trained in zone 2. And so how you get your heart rate is you take your 220 minus your age, and then 65% of that is slow riding. 65 to 85% is if you want to go on a long distance. 85 to 94% is aerobic, and then over 94% is that anaerobic. So I definitely recommend you be either zone 2 if you're going long distance, or zone 3 if you're wanting to improve your cardiovascular. And then here's just a few resources for you. There's something called Trail Link. That's by that Rails to Trails. It's an online and an app. It's all over all 50 states. It shows you over 200 trails or 40,000 miles. There's also Cycle Maps. It gets you lots of different options from getting from point A to point B. Map My Ride, route planning and fitness tracking. And then there are multiple Facebook groups here in Utah of different groups that you can join.
And Laura, one of our attendees had shared another local resource with us that I put in the chat. It's a website called bccutah.org. And
Okay,
they put on races and have a calendar of rides for all different levels and everything. So I've shared that in the chat with everyone.
awesome. Well, that's all I have for you today. Do we have any questions?
We do have a few questions. Let me scroll back up. We had some equipment questions. One is, should you replace your helmet every year, whether or not it's damaged?
No, that's not necessary. The key is damage. And even it can be light damage. You can have a fall and you see no damage to the helmet. I would still replace the helmet because you don't know what's happened inside. Even though maybe on the outside it doesn't look like anything happened. So I've fallen 2 times off of my bike, and I wasn't hit by a car or anything. I've just fallen due to some circumstances, and I replaced my helmet both times.
Okay. Another question we had was, what about seats that have a slot in them? Is that helpful?
So there's lots of different kinds of seats, and really it kind of when I was looking for a seat, I actually took my bike and to the bike shop and tried the different seats because for different people, it's you're built different. One may feel good to one and one may not feel good to another, and it's the same seat. So they do have the slots there in the middle. That's the kind of seat that I use. I think that it puts less pressure on the perineum, but still provides a lot of comfort and padding to those sit bones on the back. So I definitely recommend those. But if you're looking for a seat and you're not comfortable on the seat that you have, I would take the bike and then try them out and see what feels the best. Good question.
And the other question that we had is, would an e-bike be a good way to get started if you eventually want to move to a regular road bike, or do you recommend just starting on a regular road bike if that's the end goal?
Well, it kind of depends on what your fitness level is. If you have cardiovascular disease or diabetes, or maybe you're in the obese category, or something like that, or are not physically active, you at all, then I think the e-bike is a really great option, and then maybe transition to a regular bike because if you take that step, it's more likely that you'll actually continue to exercise versus if maybe you're already exercising, a couple times a week, or maybe you're going on a walk 5 miles twice a week. I don't think you necessarily have to take that step.
Okay.
Good question.
Okay. Another question is, are stationary bikes helpful for someone who wants to work up to road biking?
Yes. And so those are actually a good option too if it's inclement weather, but not the recumbent bikes because those actually work different muscles than the regular bikes. So try to get, those bikes that sit like a normal bike and you can adjust the seat just like you can adjust the seat on your regular bike. Really, that helps with your cadence and you can dial how hard you want it to be working. It just takes, for me, it takes the joy out of biking because now you're in an indoor environment and now you're focused on the exercise itself. But if you're training for a race, they're a great option because they do work, many of the lower muscles. Now, it's not going to improve your upper body strength and the maneuverability, and it's not going to improve, like your shoulder and your neck strength, but it will improve your lower body cadence and muscles.
Okay, sounds great. Let me just scan again. I think that's all the questions we have, but I'm just going to scroll back up through the chat and make sure I didn't miss any. No, it looks like we're good. Thank you, Laura. This has been a great presentation.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for coming.